and welcome to another episode of M&A TV. If you haven't been here before, this is where we like to talk all things paranormal, including a little bit of history. So let's have a look what we've got coming up in today's show. We have a mini investigation when we visited Burrow Mump. Chris will be sharing some of the history of Odda's chapel. And Jodie will be telling us the ghostly tales of Woodchester Mansion. But before all that, here's Fran talking all about scrying.
Well, hello there, witches. Let's try and talk about scrying. What is scrying? Basically, it's a form of seeing or peeping, and it is centuries old, and anyone can try to scry. And the way we tend to scry traditionally is through either crystal balls, black mirrors, reflective surfaces, or even through naked flames, or even liquids and water can be used to scry. So how do people scry? The aim is to try and find yourself in a different state of mind, an altered state of mind, without the need of alcohol or drugs. It's all done through meditation or breathing, to help you get into that space where you can scry and see things properly within your scrying tools. So it doesn't have to be something you have to invest a lot of money into doing. You can use a disused TV screen or an old smartphone, for instance, to scry in, because they become, when they're not on, they are black mirrors. So it is good to try and open up and connect if you're using scrying to connect to the spirit world rather than using for divination, because it can be used for both. So if you were just using scrying for purely divination, you would just want to get into that altered state of mind and then go for it. If you're using it for spirit connection, you want to call the spirits to where you are scrying. So it's useful to have a chant or incantation to call those spirits in towards you. Also, if you are using any form of scrying implement to communicate with spirits, it's important that you shut it down and close it like you would a Ouija board, so that you do not create an open portal. Okay, so if anyone has any questions about scrying, why not comment below as you're watching this video, and if I am watching this live on the premiere, and if you're watching the premiere, you might get an answer from me about scrying. But it's something that we do in the team quite regularly on investigations, and we are quite happy to share our knowledge on scrying with other people that might want to give it a go too. Alright, love and light.
There are a great many ghostly tales from Woodchester Mansion, but here are just a few. According to legend, the second Earl of Ducie threw a lavish party here in 1840 to celebrate his succession to earldom. However, when he came to take his place at the head of the table, he was met by the ghost of his father, the first Earl, who stole his seat and interrupted the festivities. The Earl was so frightened that he left the house, never to return again. In 1845, part of the estate was purchased by William Lee, who set about converting the building to what you now see today. Mysteriously, the work of the building was stopped without explanation, leaving much of it unfinished. The workers simply downed tools and left, never to come back. Locally, rumours of a gruesome murder that took place here were given as the reason behind this. An alternative explanation is that the workers were plagued by supernatural activity, which got so bad they were afraid to return. During the Second World War, American and Canadian troops set up camp in the pasture opposite Woodchester Mansion and used the cellars of the building to store equipment and supplies. The lakes in Woodchester Park were used to train for D-Day landings. On one of these training exercises, a bridge over the lake collapsed and several soldiers drowned. The bodies were taken back to the mansion. The spirits of these soldiers are still believed to wander Woodchester. Several sightings have been seen, and there have been reports of the sound of the 1940s music echoing around the building. In the chapel of Woodchester, there have been many sightings of a short, ghostly man, believed to be a stonemason, who once worked on the building. The smell of freshly extinguished candles is often reported, despite no candles having been lit. Many have claimed small stones have been thrown across the chapel towards them, but nobody visibly present in the direction that they came. Those are just a few of Woodchester's many reported ghostly tales. Others include that of a floating head, a woman singing, and even that of a phantom horse and carriage. There are a few more. In fact, there are so many tales from this location. It's surely one of the most haunted locations in the UK.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of M&A. Today we are at Burrows with Mum. It is a ruined church that was built in the 18th century and was built on top of the ruins of an Anglo-Saxon church that was commissioned supposedly by King Albert the Great. It has now been entrusted to the National Trust as a war monument dedicated to those that lost their lives from Somerset in the Second World War. Let's take a look and see what we can find today.
Now it's recording.
Right, so guys, we're going to start off here in what would have been the original entrance of the church. We're just going to do some calling out, see if we can get the spirits ready to come and communicate with us. We've got the K2 meter with us to see if that lights up, and then once we've spent a few minutes here, just got a feel for the place, we're going to move inside the ruins and see what else we can pick up. But excuse the wind, I know the audio is probably not that great, we can't do a lot about that at the moment. It's quite windy up here because we are quite high.
In the highest place around here, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's quite
Very, very fun. So anyway, any spirits here that remain here, please step forward and let us know that you're here with us.
You see if you can light up the device in the hand to my colleague here.
Any strange noises, beeps you can hear is Chris taking some stills photos.
I don't think that's on now.
It's on, Jodie. It's on. When you turn it off, nothing, right? When you turn it on, it lights up.
Oh, okay.
It's on.
Sorry,
The green
sorry.
light's an indicator as well, it's the best thing.
The green light is on, but you just can't see it. If I cover it,
right,
it's on.
Let's try again.
Let's edit the numbers
We'll edit that bit.
Edit like that.
Is there anybody with us right now that is not a mortal plane?
Imagine a funeral up here. Man's carrying the coffin up here.
That would be a bit of a.
Do you reckon we'd have had some kind of police system?
Yeah, I would have thought so. You thought they might have had something to help them get the coffins up and that, because I would not like to be a
There
pallbearer.
might be thinking about it. Originally, there may have been like stairs.
Because of the angle, with the body in the coffin, it would just kind of slide around and crumpled in.
We'll cut that bit out.
So professional, aren't we? Bloopers.
Imagine you got nearly top and like you let go.
Damn it, we've got to start again.
That's where they
Coffin
invented
smashes
the
open with
bobsled.
Provided a coffin down.
So I think we've come to the conclusion that a funeral would be
Pretty hard to be.
probably impossible to conduct up here.
Probably has to been done though. It's got to have been.
There's a little graveyard just
Yeah, there is a little graveyard just down the hill. So any spirits here with us now? Come forwards.
the added energy of the laughter might have woken. Yeah. Can you come and talk to us? Can you come and use the device just to let us know you're here?
Had your funeral here. You let us know how it went. Fran's already off. I got to look at Fran now because I'm going to start laughing every time. Chris, did you know this hill was when they invented the bobsled? When they were having a funeral, we got to the top, we accidentally let go of the coffin.
We wrote it down.
Okay, right.
Wait a bit.
Right, should we move inside and try something else?
Now that we've been so unprofessional out.
We'll be a bit serious. I reckon we can probably
Look,
try and
this is my
do a
serious
digital
face.
voice recorder in one of the corners.
If there's anybody around, let us know.
there anybody in this bell tower? Cross the road, Rod's for a yes. We will not for no. Yes. Are you can you set Rod's back actually to neutral position? Are you a clergyman?
He was a soldier.
No.
Were you a parishioner of this church? You sent it back to you. Was this a regular place for you to visit your worship? Had it become a regular place of your worship? Or were you an occasional parishioner? I feel awful about answering that, but yes. And why is it that you visit this place? Does it hold special memories? Yes.
I've got an image of an older gentleman in my head.
For some reason, I've got older, but I've got woman. Are you female? Thank you. You set Rod back to where it was. Thank you.
Is there an older gentleman here as well? No, so why can I see that?
Were you described as a handsome woman? Can't wait for that conclusion.
Possibly.
She's got quite masculine features. Yes.
Sorry.
For some reason I'm getting
What's weird
the name
is it's
Dorothy.
quite a cold day. There's obviously quite a bit of a cool breeze. But every now and again I get a really warm spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. She won't move the one rod. She's concentrating all of her energy just on moving the one.
Can you try moving both of the rods?
I'm feeling it's...
She is, but it's really weak compared to the movement it's in.
Okay.
If it's difficult to move both, just focus on one then, sweetheart.
I've got an ass.
That's it. Focus on what's easiest for you.
Is your name Dorothy? There's energy there. It's vibrating rod, but she's struggling to answer that for some
They
reason.
call you Dotty.
I was that into my head as well, Jackie.
Yeah. I was waiting to see if you would say, if you yourself say, because Dotty, I've got a picture of brown curly hair. Is this accurate?
I've got curls as well.
The curls have got quite short curly hair rather than long curly hair.
Yeah, I think in her later years
Like a
she was
bob.
going quite grey.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of you wearing a traditional English frock with flowers.
Well, what we mean.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Pinafore on the front.
Almost like work tabs. Like
She's got the little pocket in, yeah.
Yeah, she's great with that.
Okay, so that's
Crotch shot. Well, literally.
okay. So we're going to call it a day here at Burrow Pub.
That's
Yeah,
the one.
I got it right. We've had a little tiny bit of activity, nothing special. I think maybe if we came at a different time of day or even in the dead of night, it might be quite different. But nonetheless, it's been a nice location to visit. The view is absolutely amazing. We still can't figure how they'd run funerals here in this church, but
Yeah, it's probably why there's a little lookout there going all the way down like that.
toboggan run.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.
Right.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
This quaint little place is Odda's Chapel, an 11th century Anglo-Saxon building, one of two Anglo-Saxon religious buildings, the second being St Mary's Priory Church here in Deerhurst. It's a small little place, but really cool to visit. When Earl Odda had the chapel built, he did it for the soul of his brother, who had died in 1053. The chapel itself was then consecrated in 1056 by Ealdred, the Bishop of Worcester. The chapel itself is fairly simple, containing just a nave and a chancel, but it still has a very impressive Romanesque style chancel archway, with a smaller one forming the doorway. But however simple it is, it's still an impressive piece of architecture for its age. Then came the English Reformation. In 1532 to 1534, the Reformation Parliament passed laws that abolished papal authority in England, declaring King Henry VIII to be head of the Church of England. In 1545, Parliament passed an Act which abolished chantries, defining them as representing misapplied funds and misappropriated lands. The Act meant that all chantries and their properties then belonged to the King. Alongside the dissolution of monasteries, this helped finance the war with France. Unfortunately, King Henry VIII only survived 2 more years after the Act was passed, meaning that few chantries were actually closed, but his young son and successor Edward VI signed a new act in 1547, ending over 2,000 chantries and guild chapels and seizing all of their assets. Now, sometime between the late 16th and early 17th century, a timber frame farmhouse was added onto the east wall called Abbot's Court. The nave itself was turned into a kitchen, with the chancel having a first floor put in as well as domestic windows. Abbot's Court is still here today, but it just goes to show that when it was added, this place, its age and identity had been long forgotten. In 1675, Sir John Powell, a local landowner, discovered a Latin inscribed stone slab, which turned out to be a dedication to the chapel, which would later be known as Odda's Stone. Fast forward to 1865, Vicar of St Mary's Parish Church, Reverend George Butterworth, discovered the existence of the chapel from the chronicles of the Abbey at Tewkesbury and the knowledge of Odda's Stone. In 1885, Abbot's Court was undergoing repairs when a blocked Anglo-Saxon window was discovered behind plaster. In 1960, This place was made a Grade 1 listed building by the Ministry of Works. In 1965 it was disentangled from the farmhouse and restoration work was begun, preserving it for us all to see today. However small this place is, when you step inside you get a true feel for its history. It's good to be here, and inside you can actually see the Latin inscribed stone copy that was placed here years ago. It might be one of the smallest places I've actually visited on my historical adventures, but it's still a really cool and beautiful place to visit, not to mention peaceful. We even saw people, families, with their dogs too, going for walks, and that's because it's such a nice place to be. It still has its history though, and it still has its place in history. It was good to look up this place and learn all about it, and it's still a cool place to visit, just to stop off on a road trip or on your way to a holiday location. It's a great little place, as you can see. It's worth it to stop and learn. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. I'll see you next time.
Well, that's all we've got for you this episode, but as always, if you enjoyed it, please give it a like, drop us a comment and make sure you're subscribed. See you next time.